Hello, my friends. My name is Gerdes, and here are three big stories for today. So, the biggest story is something that we've been waiting for years to hear, literally years to hear. People would ask how many Ukrainian casualties are there, and we wouldn't know. We would say Ukraine doesn't release the number, but here are some probable guesses or estimates by other countries. Well, Zelensky has answered that. Here we go. Let's listen to him. 31,000 military personnel have been killed in this war, he's claiming. 31,000 Ukrainian troops, which is very painful for us, but I cannot say how many wounded we have because Russia will know how many people we have left on the battlefield. I just cannot say. Okay, so he's asked something else. Tens of thousands of civilians have died in the occupied territories. We know about tens of thousands, but I don't know how many of them have died, how many were killed, how many were murdered. You know that there are certain lists, but we don't know how many of our civilians these Russian forces have killed. Okay, so that's what he had to say. And so now I'm looking at that number and I'm just going, I can't, I'm trying to process it. 31,000 seems exceedingly low, but that's what he's claimed. Let's look at an article and then we'll look at some other statistics and see what's going on. Volodymyr Zelensky has given a figure for the number of Ukrainian battlefield casualties in the war for the first time, acknowledging that 31,000 soldiers have been killed, saying 2024 will be decisive. He conceded Western weapons were in short supply and were crucial at a time when his troops were spectacularly outgunned. Yeah, Avdiivka would still be, they would still be able to hold Avdiivka if they weren't outgunned and still had the artillery and ammunition that they needed, but they had to withdraw. They just couldn't sustain it. He said Western estimates of the number of Ukrainian dead were too high. U.S. officials have suggested 70,000 soldiers killed and 120,000 injured. Okay, so let's look at this. This is Wikipedia with different estimates of what's going on. And here's the number of casualties in the time period. So these are civilians, 11,000 or 12,000 are killed, something like that at different times, the Ukraine or the United Nations, but it's probably in a neighborhood of double that at this point. I mean, it could be far more than what it is. Now, Ukrainian forces, the U.S. estimate as of August of 2023 was 70,000 killed. Zelensky is now saying that there's 31,000 killed. So it seems like it's entirely too small to my mind. And I hope Zelensky's right and I'm wrong. I don't have the corner of the market. I'm not privy to whatever facts he's privy to. Here's another estimate here, 35,000 killed. And 25,000 confirmed, 24.5 thousand of those were confirmed by name, and that's according to the Museum of Military History, the Memory Book Group. Okay, and that seems not out of line with what they're saying, but I don't know if these confirm, I don't know if the 15,000 missing would actually inflate that or if there are even more missing or just what. The Russian Ministry of Defense back in December claimed that there were 383,000 killed and wounded, but that's killed and wounded, and we're not exactly sure what that looks like. We know that there's roughly 400,000 Russians that are killed or wounded, according to Ukraine, and it's north of 300, mid 300 or so maybe, killed and wounded, but the estimates by the U.S. at this point now. So 31,000 just seems very, very low. But again, I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments below. I'd like to understand what you think about this because I can't see it. Okay, let's go to the next story. The next big story is Ukraine signed security deals with Italy and Canada. So again, a number of people were coming to Ukraine in order to show solidarity, prime ministers from other countries. And now this follows on the heels of what has already happened with Great Britain, what's happened with Germany. Actually, we want to go Germany, I think, was first, and then Great Britain and France. and they've signed these bilateral, like decade-long security agreements. Here's Canada and Italy. The leaders of Italy and Canada signed security agreements with Ukraine during their visit to Kyiv on Saturday, marking the beginning of the third year of the fighting between Ukraine and Russia. Ottawa will provide 302 or 300.2 billion or 2.2 US billion in macroeconomic and military support. And now, by the way, this is an RT, and the facts are still the facts, even if they may try to twist some things in other places. The details of the agreement between Zelensky and Italian Prime Minister Meloni have not been made public, although Ukrainian leaders said it will provide a foundation for deep cooperation. I thank Italy for its support to Ukraine, in particular defense capability and reconstruction of our state, and for continued military aid to Ukraine, he posted on Twitter. Italy has provided 8 packages of military aid worth $722 million since February 2022, according to Germany's Kegel Institute. So that's happening, but it's not just Ukraine getting new bilateral aid packages with Italy and Canada. On the same day, we see this. Ukraine and Denmark sign a 10-year security agreement. And so there's another one here, and the security guarantees will be financed by Denmark's Ukraine Fund, which has so far earmarked more than 69 billion Danish kroner, or 9.2 billion euros. Okay, so I mean, it's coming along. Most of Europe now and Canada now has come alongside, or many in Western Europe have come alongside Ukraine as bilateral partners. Now, what's going on with the United States? I mean, that's the next question. We haven't been able to get our act together by passing that $60 billion thing with either aid to the border or accommodations for immigration control on the border, or without it. So moderates now in the House are pitching a pared down bipartisan spending deal for Ukraine and border security. So here's representatives. Now, when we see representatives, we're talking about the House of Representatives, not the Senate. Reps Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania and Jared Golden of Maine on Sunday urged their House colleagues to back their pared down proposal for Ukraine aid and border security, claiming that the effort could serve as a pressure point to get spending passed. So maybe we take out some things that people are still holding their nose about and see if that can get through. This bipartisan Senate bill that included significant border security reform and aid for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan has been stuck in the House for weeks, with top Democrats now pursuing a discharge petition to get a floor vote without the help of Speaker Mike Johnson. So let's stop there. Will a discharge petition work? Sometimes it does, but it's very rare, so I wouldn't hold my breath on a discharge petition. Golden said that the effort wasn't likely to succeed. However, instead of pitching his own version of the deal, emphasizing that aid for Ukraine is needed immediately, this time sensitive and existential, he said in a CBS Face the Nation interview with Margaret Brennan on Sunday. What our bill does is it combines border security with this foreign aid, both existential, and we're forcing this bill to the floor to make sure that everybody acts. The moderates' proposal, now this is the change here that you need to be aware of, proposal reduces the spending ask from about $60 billion to $49 billion, cutting out humanitarian aid for Israel and Ukraine and adding the strict Remain in Mexico border policy, all points unpopular with most Democrats. So, if Democrats are able to hold their nose and allow Remain in Mexico, there might be enough momentum for this to pass with the Republicans and Mike Johnson in order to get this across. Is that a big ask? Yes, it's a big ask, but it might actually get it across the line. Despite the compromises, Fitzpatrick, and they're really not going to like the Remain in Mexico policy. Like, Democrats have been on the other side of the fence, no pun intended, on that particular point. Despite the compromises, Fitzpatrick said that the potential deal could likely get a supermajority support in the House if it reaches a floor vote and could pass the Senate. I think that deal is very likely to be able to pass both the House and Senate, again, if it can get to the floor. Okay, those are the 3 big stories for today. 31,000. I'm not sure what I think about it, but tell me what you think about the 31,000 figure. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.